Hello Internet, and thank you for joining me today. So this is going to be the last video I'm able to do this year, and since I have just a little bit of time on my hands, I wanted to reflect on everything I've tried to ingest this year. Honestly, after reviewing everything, it doesn't seem like I've gotten much done. I'm going to blame it on spending a huge chunk of the year depressed and cocooning myself in comfort shows and movies and junk food. It's not totally because I'm lazy, at least. However, all that being said, I did manage to watch a few things, and I want to hand out some fake awards, because real awards cost money. So this video is going to be me talking about some fake awards that I will metaphorically be handing out to some movies that I saw this year. And I'm going to be limiting it to movies that I actually watched all the way through. And so if something doesn't make the top or bottom or feels like I should talk about it, it's probably because I didn't see it. Either because it was too expensive to go see, or I was lazy and didn't want to pirate it. Also, if you think that I'm stealing this from several different YouTubers that have done something similar to this, you're exactly right. I am robbing them blind.
I've pulled more tail than a slow kid at a petting zoo.
So kicking off the list, I'm going to give out the award for most fun I had in a movie theater. The most fun that I had in the movie theaters this year was probably going to be Deadpool and Wolverine. And I already made a whole video on this, so this is probably going to be the shortest section, more than likely. But yeah, I just had a lot of fun with this movie. I thought that it was really funny. Even though there's some plot issues with it, it's definitely not like some high art piece. But, you know, it's definitely fun to sit down and watch with a ton of people that are all laughing and having a good time with it. So I thought I wanted to mention it, and since it's short enough, I'm going to top it off with the list and move on to my next category. And if you do want to hear more about this movie, go ahead and just check out my review on my channel about Deadpool and Wolverine. But otherwise, leave a comment in the comment section, and I might consider doing a more thorough review, diving into exactly what those problems are, and just putting more thought into everything surrounding the movie and how it's going to affect everything going forward. But speaking of going forward, we're moving on to the next category.
So perk up and stop being embarrassed! Rip your clothes off and get naked!
Next up is going to be the most underrated thing of the year. Now, this can be for a movie, a TV show, a video game, whatever. And this, however, is going to go to Mecha Uday. And Mecha Uday is honestly pretty phenomenal. Again, just like Deadpool and Wolverine, it's really not high art type of stuff, but it really is a faithful callback to the year 2003, which means a lot for all of us old people that kind of miss that. It's kind of a sit down and just experience it sort of show, with fight scenes that are truly top notch. I mean, I don't really think we could get stuff like this back in 2003, but it's truly stunning what we're able to do with these fight scenes. And I was kind of being a bit mean, I guess, whenever I said that it's not high art. What I mean by that is that this isn't going to change the face of anime. It's also kind of full of plot holes, if I'm being honest, but it's a very fun show, and if you give it a chance, you definitely might be seeing something that you end up loving. And I haven't heard anyone talking about it, and I wanted to at least give it a little bit of props here, so I wanted to put it here as kind of an underrated gem, something that you probably won't hear beyond this season, but definitely is worth talking about.
Wow, look at all the ice cream! You're gonna get fat!
So moving on from a hidden gem to literally the worst anime of the year, And yes, this is the intro for the award for Worst Anime of the Year. But that anime is going to have to be Berserk of Gluttony. Now, listen, I don't think that most other people are going to put this anime at the bottom of their lists or on any list, either for best or worst. But I have to put it here because I cannot think of a single anime that I had a worse time with that I actually sat down and watched more than 5 minutes of. And here's my real problem, is that I kind of knew that this show was going to be bad. I mean, just looking at the generic art style that could literally come from anyone, and then hearing the dialogue that was coming, and I'm not even a native Japanese speaker, but even I could tell that this was so hacky and so stilted that I could not think of another anime that's honestly come across like this. Which, again, there's probably worse anime out there that even came out this year, but this was the only one that I personally watched, and I watched it all the way through. And that's what really stings, is that I spent 12 episodes with the worst character, and he's just so fucking bad. Honestly, I need to just break down and roast this entire show, but I'm trying to keep my videos more succinct, so we'll file this under a maybe in a future episode if my channel ever takes off, that I will just beat the absolute shit out of the show with words. But for now, I'm just going to sit here and tell you that it's awful from top to bottom. From the story, to the animation, to the music, to the characters. I mean, it's just a wall-to-wall shit show.
No.
Alright, so I'm looking here at my list, and it looks like we're going from worst to worst. So, worst movie of the year, as in the one that I found most personally distasteful to me, has got to be Joker Folie à Deux, which automatically loses points from me for not only being a terrible, unnecessary sequel, but for having a pretentious French subtitle. What do you call those? That when a title has like an addendum to it? Whatever. It's unbelievably pretentious is the name of the game for this movie. Now, I asked over the Thanksgiving holiday what my brother thought of this, and he started to go into why he really loved it and why he thought it was great. But honestly, I could not disagree with him more, because I just thought everything from the inception of this movie, honestly, from the moment that I heard that this movie was being made, I immediately thought that this was unnecessary. We did not need a sequel to Joker. And really, all this movie does is reinforce to me that Todd Phillips is just kind of a hack writer. If he's not stealing something or just directing someone else's script, then he's really kind of bad at making movies. And the real tragedy of this is just that, honestly, I really kind of thought that after I watched the first Joker that he was going to have some upward trajectory. Like, he was going to have a moment, you know, here in Hollywood where he made these really thoughtful movies, but really he was just copying Taxi Driver and King of Comedy and all of these other movies. Alright, so I looked it up, and apparently, Todd Phillips isn't the worst director in the world. He has just made some absolutely abhorrent shit. I mean, just looking through his IMDb here, I'm seeing that he made stuff like Road Trip, which I thought was hilarious. Starsky and Hutch, which was, just okay. And the original Hangover. But then I'm seeing that he also directed the other two Hangover movies, which were utter garbage. And he directed Due Date, which was fucking boring. And he directed fucking War Dogs. And War Dogs, if my memory serves, is absolutely terrible. I fucking hated it. It was so goddamn boring. So this director isn't just the worst. He's just really hit and miss. And the second Joker movie here that I'm not going to give the dignity of this subtitle is just kind of the worst in a long line of spotty direction here. Like, I think the word that I'm looking for is pretentious. I probably need to do a whole video on this one too, but for now, we're just going to go ahead and move on.
Hey, Master. I am mad scientist. It's so cool. Son of a bitch. はい。何ですか? 日本語で OK か.
Alright, after thinking about Joker, I kind of need a palate cleanser here. So I'm going to move on to a little bit more of a fun topic here. And this is the award for Best Anime that gave me a new fetish. And that anime is going to be Chained Soldier, which gave me a Dami Mommy fetish. If you haven't heard about this show, then, man, I just feel bad for you. Honestly, Giga did a great video about the manga a while back, and the anime kind of got a lot of attention when it came out, but it was relegated to high dives, so yeah, I know a ton of people didn't gravitate to it immediately, but after watching it with my little Watch Everything app, I can't recommend this anime enough, honestly. The story is all about this world, kind of, that has essentially been in kind of a post-apocalyptic scenario. These holes to another dimension open, and monsters come through. And there are certain things called peaches that can be ingested by humans that can give them superpowers, and that allows humanity to fight back against the monsters. The only caveat is that only women can eat the peaches. No one knows what happens, or at least it's not widely discussed, what happens when a male eats one of these peaches. Presumably either they die or nothing happens, but when women eat the peaches, they get superpowers. And so this means that essentially we have gone in the exact opposite direction of our current world. Whereas predominantly men are politicians and doctors and whatnots, in this universe, those positions are all predominantly women. Our protagonist gets sucked up into this other dimension one day, and through a series of shenanigans, he essentially becomes the house husband, I guess, for this dormitory full of superpowered women. And then a bunch of crazy sexiness happens, and a Dami Mommy is able to enslave him so that he can become some buff warrior slave dude. Don't think about the wording too hard. It's just a way to get him superpowers, but not give him the same superpowers as everyone else. This is another one that I wouldn't define as high art or genre defining or, you know, the heights of greatness, but it is a lot of dumb fun. I am current on the manga as far as the translations go, and it's super fun to just, you know, get to know all of the different characters, because unlike most of these harem shows, you actually do get a feel for each individual person, what they want and why they want it, and they give a lot more attention to the female cast, which is a huge change in pace from most other harem shows. And, you know, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but this really deserves its own video. However, our next entry, I don't think I'm going to be able to say that for. So without me burying the lead any further here, we're going to talk about the worst anime that gave me a new fetish. That honor is going to go to the plus-sized elf anime. This is another victim of the high dive effect where it gets put on a more obscure anime streaming service, so not a ton of people watched it, but a ton of people were talking about it when it came out. But once it did come out, no one said another word about it. Probably because we all collectively watched it and then had to hide our boners in shame. Which I think is a real shame, because I think we should be a lot more open about these sorts of things and just kind of let our freak flags fly. I have had to record that line too many times, I'm not doing it again. But if you don't know about this anime yet, it's basically just an elf comes from another world, and there's specific weight requirements that she has to meet to go back because she can't weigh more than when she first traveled there. It's just a silly excuse to have thick, fat-titted bitches show up and get into somewhat scandalous scenarios with the main character. It's all just really silly, and calling it the worst kind of makes me sound mean, or makes me feel mean at least. Unfortunately, there really is just nothing to the show beyond that initial premise. You get to meet a new, thick, fat-titty anime babe every couple episodes or so, and then they argue with each other about who gets to sit on the MC's face, and then everyone just, goes home. I'm sure I'd be watching it on repeat if I was still a 16-year-old boy, but as a 30-something, I am just not all that interested. I mean, I did sit through all of it, but it's not something that I plan on revisiting anytime soon, and probably the first entry in this video that I don't feel the need to make an entire video about. So this will be my definitive word on it, that it's good enough for me to watch once, maybe twice in my life, but never again.
Eat this! No, not that part.
So now that we're all chubbed up from the fetish categories that I have lined out in my notes, we're going to move on to the biggest boner killer of the year award, which is undoubtedly, for me, going to go to Alia Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russian. If you didn't know about this show, then I'm fairly certain you were just hiding under a rock. Honestly, there were tons of people talking about this show when it came out. I'm only going to summarize the plot in as far as, look at the title, now look at the anime, now you know what it's about. The premise of a girl having a crush on a guy, and every time she has kind of a feeling about it, she has to confess her feelings to him in Russian, and the secret that he already knows Russian is honestly exhausting. Like, they just repeat this show ad nauseum, and I really don't feel the need to make another video about this, so I'm just going to lay this out here in this end of year video, that I couldn't honestly get through this anime. It's so repetitive and honestly predictable. There's just no stakes to it, because you already know from like the second or third episode that the girl that he learned Russian for is actually going to be Alia's sister, but you know that he's not going to choose Alia's sister and he's just going to choose Alia. And so why are we all here? Why do we need to drag this out for like 20-something episodes? And if it wasn't 24 episodes, it sure the fuck felt like it. I didn't even watch it all, and I feel like I watched 48 of them bitches. It was just, I can only say it as boring. There's only so many ways to say that.
I've pulled more tail than a slow kid at a petting zoo.
After the last two were kind of downers, because I really didn't like either of them, I want to go to something I actually kind of like. So the biggest guilty pleasure that I had this year was, honestly, Madam Web. I probably just made my brother smack his gob if he's listening to this at all, because I put Joker as my worst movie, but then I mentioned this as an actual pleasure to watch. And let me get this straight here. It's not that I'm saying that Madam Web is of higher quality than Joker 2. It's that I'm saying that I had more fun watching this terrible train wreck of a movie than I did watching Todd Phillips try to jerk himself off while simultaneously giving me the middle finger. I mean, come on. The plot in this makes no sense. The effects look bad. The acting is terrible. The scripting is terrible. The director is asleep at the wheel, if there even is a director and not just some power-mad executive over at Sony trying to slap all these together. I really can't imagine a universe in which there is a good Madam Web movie, but I can envision a good Todd Phillips movie. He has shown it with his track record. But Madam Web was doomed from the beginning. It had Dakota... Fuck, I'm not going to look up her name. I don't care enough. I ended up looking it up. It's Dakota Johnson. And she's from the 50 Shades of Grey universe, which I like to think that these are just the same movies, you know, because she's getting abused in both of them. And that just isn't convincing at any point. At no point in this woman's career have I thought to myself, oh, hey, yeah, that's definitely happening to her character, and this isn't just an actor that is doing a really poor job of conveying any kind of emotion. And normally I really think that it's kind of juvenile and kind of a low blow to say that an actor just always looks like they're about to take a poop or something. But come on, man. Look at Dakota Johnson. She just looks like she's always in some form of intestinal distress. And as a bonus in this movie, we get Sydney Sweeney, which, you know, is for somebody. Like, I don't think that she's a box office draw for me. Like, I was never going to go see this in the movie theater. But getting high on my couch and, you know, watching this streaming on Netflix a few weeks after its release, yeah, that sounds like a great time. And I did have a great time watching it. So that's why it's my new guilty pleasure. It's my new favorite toy that I just want to break again and again and again.
You know what I meant to ask you? How did we get out of there?
I think we did some sweet maneuvers from that movie Backdraft.
So now I actually want to kind of be in the same vein here and move on to the show that I was most conflicted about. And the show that I was most conflicted about this year was Mushoku Tensei Season 2. And the reason that I'm so conflicted is because it truly is a fantastic show with fantastic characters, fantastic artwork, a wonderful story that deserves to be told, and it's truly unique in its own genre. It basically defined the isekai genre, if you weren't already informed. But the real problem is the way that the story is going. I really wish I had another word for this, but the only way I can truly describe it is icky. I mean, it already started off pretty questionable with the whole idea that this is a, like, I think he's supposed to be like mid to late 20s to like early 30s or something, but he's a grown-ass man in the mind of like a baby. And so whenever he does something as a little kid that would be otherwise seen as innocent and naive, it's instead viewed as really kind of gross because he knows what he's doing. He's aware of the conventions that he is breaking. And he's using the guise of a child to get away with it, in a sense. But up until now, I've really kind of been able to squint my eyes and look past this and see the inner beauty that truly does exist in this show. However, the revelation in this newest season is that... Oh, wait. Spoilers. So, yeah, skip to a time frame, a couple frames in the future if you don't want to be spoiled. But... yeah, he gets married to his childhood friend, but then he goes off to rescue his mom, only to almost immediately shack up with his old teacher while his wife is pregnant. And not only that, but then he brings her back to the house, the chick that he was banging. He brings her back to his house where his wife is with, the child inside of her, and asks, like, hey, you mind having a sister wife here? And so I really am just conflicted, because it kind of makes sense when you really squint and look at it, because these chicks, they're kind of cool with it. The time period kind of makes it make sense, but I am not in that time period, so it makes it very hard for me, the viewer, to start sympathizing with a lot of what's going on, because, yeah, we just don't accept that. And so divorcing myself from it, I really am going to have to stick with this show, because the story is simply just amazing. There's no getting around that. But shit, I'm just gonna move on, because this is a whole review in and of itself. Just to bitch about this one thing, I could be here for hours. But you know what, I was just conflicted on it. I felt like talking about it a little bit in this video. But yeah, everyone should go out and watch it, form your own opinion, and then let's get back together and have a whole last discussion about it.
Attractively plump paw pads. I hope you'll pardon my saying so.
Moving on from that, I only have 2 more awards to give out, and unfortunately I don't have any creative names or anything really interesting to kind of introduce them, so we're just going to go with the tried and true bests. This is the best anime of the year, hands down. Dan da Dan. I already spent, I think it was like 15 minutes gushing over one scene in this anime, so I'm just going to keep it short. And firstly, I just want to acknowledge that everyone is going to be picking this anime as anime of the year. It is truly, truly stunning. And in a year where a lot of people are going to put Frieren or, Mushoku Tensei Season 2, there's been a lot of great anime this year, but Dan da Dan has, it stands head and shoulders above all of its contemporaries, with super smart writing, super funny characters, super moving moments all throughout the series, and keeping with a level of beauty doesn't begin to describe it. The animation in this show is just amazing. It is peak anime, and I cannot recommend it enough. Again, there is a whole ass video to go along with this one, but for now, I'm going to keep it short and sweet and say that Dan da Dan is one of the best anime that I have ever seen. Well, I made it. I've been recording this video for the better part of 2 weeks. This is by far the most effort I've ever put into a video, I think. But the last award I want to talk about is Best Movie. And originally in my notes here, I put down Longlegs, because up until this point, I really thought that Longlegs was probably the best movie I have seen all year. But I already made a whole video about that, and I actually have tickets to see Nosferatu tonight, and Robert Eggers is probably my favorite film director maybe ever, so I'm gonna watch that, and then I'm going to record the rest of this section, and we'll see which one wins out. So yeah, Nosferatu's way better. This is definitely one I'm gonna want to do a full review on at some point in the near future, probably when it comes out on digital, but yeah, suffice to say, Longlegs was a really good movie that I really loved, but Nosferatu is just amazing. You're going to see it on a ton of people's top 10 movies of the year, maybe even top 10 movies of the decade type of thing. But, I mean, it's truly an amazing movie. Robert Eggers is really bringing his A game to this story, and from everything I've seen on it, he had a real passion for this project before it ever got off the ground. He tried to get it going at least twice before this attempt, and the directing really is just top notch in this. You don't see directing being like praised as much as you see his movies praised, but I think it's well deserved, especially in this movie and The Witch. I also, just in this little blurb here, not to give this a full review, but the cast is absolutely amazing. I really feel like everyone brought their A game, but I do want to throw just a little bit of shade at Lily Rose Depp. Not that she did a bad job, it's just that, she's up against, A-listers here. I mean, this is kind of the top of the top, and she just obviously is like that. It's the difference between, like, an S-tier actor and an A-tier actor. Like, she can be incredible, she can be amazing, but then Willem Dafoe's gonna come in and completely steal her thunder. Or Ralph Ineson's going to have some iconic line, or Aaron Taylor Johnson is going to, come from behind, because his... it's just too funny that Craven and Nosferatu are basically in the movie theater at the same time. That's pretty goddamn hilarious. But her performance it wasn't as good as everyone else, and not like it's super distracting to have a slightly dimmer star there. It really just is something that I wanted to point out, because I don't feel like anyone else is pointing out that she's the weakest link in this chain, but that's a really solid chain, so who really cares? Also, sorry if I sound a bit different in this section. I'm like fighting a cold or something, but I really wanted to get this video out around the new year. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just do my outro here. Nosferatu's great, and everyone should see it and look forward to a video on it sometime next year. Now, with all of that being said, I do just want to thank everyone for watching my videos and just kind of going through this year with us. I know a lot of people have had it pretty rough this year. I've had my ups and downs, but I gotta say that doing this, starting a YouTube channel and starting to talk about movies more, has been a real pleasure to me. I'm not very big right now. I definitely am not monetized yet. It's a competitive space, but you know what? I am having a lot of fun doing this. I've had a lot of fun editing and recording videos and watching movies, and I look forward to doing it in the years to come. And wherever you are, I hope that you have a safe and happy New Year's, and I guess I'm just going to wrap it up here. So, until next time, I have been Ice King Spiff. Sayonara, bitches.